Hi everyone, my name is Josh Reynolds. I'm a postbac here at UCA. I'm in the BFA program in the art department. I'm a sculptor that mainly deals with concrete. I've used plaster prior, but I wanted a material that had more permanence and that could withstand the test of time. Concrete is definitely that material. From my research, there are very few contemporary artists that actually sculpt with concrete. So this has been a steep learning curve and a lot of experimentation. Like I said prior, I did my bachelor's in applied mathematics here, so I'm very science-minded, so I'll try not to bore you with technical details. But this is the research of my practicum. So let's get started with the process. Each figure starts with an armature. It needs to be sturdy enough to withstand the weight of the concrete. So generally I use expanding foam with wire mesh to allow the concrete to adhere to the material better, and wire to just outline the form and add a little more stability. So there are two techniques that I use for making my figures. One would be strictly casting the concrete, and the other is hand building. Both processes start with an armature. So getting into the casting process, I start with polymer clay. I create my figure. This would be the armature, and create my form over the armature. So once I have my figure, I can mold it. So this is a soft rubber silicone mold, inner mold, with an outer hard shell for stability. This is just direct casting, so here's the casted figure. This has no surface treatment. This is just a raw concrete coming out of the mold. Once I'm at this stage, I will then use concrete stains for coloration. Then I can add different finishes for sealers to add a different surface treatments. So the contextual aspect of my practicum is the fragmentation of the human form. So this one identifies with my time in the Marines. I am a combat veteran. I did 3 tours in Iraq, and I had a lot of time to heal coming back. So this represents the broken figure, but I feel the fragments and the fissures add character to the piece. And it's still concrete, so it's very durable. It has a lot of inner strength. So this concept will carry through my body of work for the practicum. Okay, getting into the hand building. This is a piece prior to my practicum. This is all hand built. I left some of the wire armature exposed for aesthetic purposes. But in this process, instead of using stains, I used integral pigments. So I'll mix this pigment in with my dry concrete, and it'll have the coloration. Then I can layer the concrete with different pigments to allow variations of color to come through, and you get a nice variety of pigments. The Medusa piece, this will be the process that molds the two. So you have the figure that is cast in concrete, and then I have the clay, the snake bodies. These will be hand built with concrete, and I will use different pigments to slightly color the snake bodies to contrast with the figure. This piece also allows the addition of other materials. So these are the snake heads. They are cast in bronze, and I will put them in the mold and pack concrete, and it will just be one unified piece. I will add a veil to cover the whole figure. So I started experimenting with dipping fabric and just concrete with no aggregates, no sand. So the fabric acts as the aggregate, and then it'll add more stability to these pieces that are hanging down, because concrete has great compression strength, but it has no tensile strength. It doesn't bend or it'll just crack. So adding that extra layer of fabric and concrete will make it more durable. Next, I'll show you a demo of my hand building process and how I create the concrete and the additives that I can put in to make it more malleable and clay-like. I'd like to dive deeper into the contextual aspect of the practicum. The technical side comes easy to me. I mean, it's mathematics, it's science, it's chemistry, it's the technique and how it's produced. Why it's produced is a harder subject for me. It's still hard to talk about things, but I feel it's important to talk about the contextual aspect of it. I feel concrete is indicative to the healing process of a trauma survivor. In the beginning of the curation, it's very fragile, it breaks apart easy, there's no real strength to it. But as the curation takes place, over time becomes very strong. It's permanent material. I mean, Romans used it 2,000 years ago and we still have, reminiscences of it. I feel like that represents the healing process of a trauma survivor, that they become stronger people, they have character, they have resilience. I also felt it was important for me not to create pieces of combat or just my experiences. I wanted to leave it open to the interpretation of the viewer, where they can inject their experiences and identify with the pieces. Because to me, art has always been a healing process. It's been therapeutic. When I was doing math, I was an art minor, always helped it deal with the stress of academics, or deal with the stress of law school, or deal with the stress of combat. So I always kept going back to art as a healing factor. And I think that's important that I help share that art can be a healing process for anybody through any kind of trauma, and that they identify with it and they can see hope or strength or how far they've come in their journey of healing, and that the fragments aren't flaws, they're characteristics, and they add a beauty to the aesthetic of a piece, and people's experiences are the beauty of their life, and that they've learned and they've grown. I just feel like it's really important that we use art as a healing and look at it as showing a process of somebody's life and their experiences. Okay, so this is my concrete demonstration. A lot of my background research, like I said, there are very few contemporary artists that deal with concrete. So I did research into construction that use concrete for construction purposes, concrete countertops, anywhere I could find information about different types of concrete, because there are a lot of additives that you can put in concrete to change the physical characteristics. So this is a small armature I made for just demonstration purposes. With concrete, you definitely want to have proper equipment, because you don't want to breathe this stuff in and it irritates your skin. Okay, so my base would be Portland cement. So I have white and I have gray, and this kind of acts as my gray scale of what kind of tone I want for the overall piece. This piece is a mix between the two, and this is just just white. So I can get any shade in between. So I'll do a mixture of the two. So I'll add my dry mix, and at this point, this is where I would put in the different pigments if I wanted to pigment the concrete. And this is a hydrated lime. Adding this makes it more clay-like, it's more malleable. You can work with it a lot better. Then I'll slowly add water until I get a consistency that I can work with. I like to start it in the bucket because it keeps everything together. Then once I get a workable material, then I'll move to the tray. Okay. This is liquid polymer. It adds more flexibility to the concrete and adds more tensile strength, harder curation, and it also helps with the hydration process to absorb pigments. Okay, now I got a pretty good base of material. I just find it easier to work on an open surface, kind of knead it like dough. There are also chemicals that I can put in this to reduce the need for water, so I can use a lot less water. It still slumps a little bit, so I can add a little more lime to make it more malleable. See, now it's more clay-like. Once this is mixed, I have about 30 to 40 minutes to work with it before it sets up too much and it starts drying and cracking. Okay, I like to get to a consistency where it'll slump just a little bit, it'll hold the shape, but you can also break it in half. So this is a good mix. So then, like I said, the wire mesh has a nice tooth for the material to cling to. So I put some on, vibrate a little bit for it to settle into the spaces. And then from here, I can work with concrete throughout the curation process. When it's wet, I can use it like clay. I can use all my clay tools to form the figure, carve, add texture. Once it starts, in an hour or two, once it starts setting up, I can treat it like plaster. I can get all my plaster rasp out, can take form away, or I can let it set up. I can add other layers on top of it. Then when once it's fully set up and becomes harder, then I can chisel like stone. I can use stone carving tools. I can use my Dremel for great detail. So the other thing I really like about concrete is the breadth of processes that you can use. So as a sculptor, it really takes in a lot of variety of techniques that I could use. So that's pretty much it. So I start with my armature. I can either cast or hand build. So I use polymer clay for casting, form it, mold it, cast it, Then with the hand building, I create my mix. It's a different chemical makeup, different additives to make it more clay-like, more malleable. Then I hand build. I use a variety of techniques to form the figure, and throughout the curation process, have all the different pigments I can use. So it's been a really wide learning experiment, which I really, being science-minded, I really enjoy the research and the experimentation. Thank you for allowing me to explain my process and my research. Thank you.